Good morning. We've been really enthusiastic about producing and promoting vital signs since our national network of community foundations across the UK elected to follow the lead of our colleagues in Canada, who first created the Vital Signs Initiative over a decade ago. And it's a good thing that Vital Signs is gaining a higher profile, because up to this point, lately anyway, the highest profile thing to come out of Canada is Justin Bieber. And that's just wrong. But we really love how Vital Signs acts as a kind of connective tissue. It brings public awareness to the issues and developments that are critical to our community, to the quality of life, and to the health of our community. This research is already out there, but it's often hard to find. And even if you do find it, it can be very hard to understand. So our aim is to make this vital information accessible to everyone, so that we can all be better informed about our city and our community. The sources of research for this year's report include, amongst others, NOMIS, the Office of National Statistics, the Office of Public Sector Information, Public Health England, and reporting from our local authority here in Milton Keynes, amongst other robust sources. 2015 is our third Vital Signs report, as Julia said. 2013 was our first full report. It covered 11 different themes, from crime to the local environment, to the arts, to public health and unemployment. Our next full report will be published next year, in 2016. The intermediate years, including this year, are our update reports. They feature a smaller range of themes and focus on the new data that's been released since our last full report. So it's my pleasure to present to you Vital Signs MK 2015. This year's update includes the latest data on our local economy, on education and exam results, as well as the most recent statistics on our public health. The report is presented in two formats: our magazine format, which you will receive at the end of this presentation, and which is designed to be easily accessible to any reader, and our long report, which is downloadable from our website and includes a lot more data on a broader range of indicators. The long report also contains the results from our People's Poll, gauging our community's views on a number of topics. This report also contains links to all of the original research that we've used in this year's Vital Signs publications, so you can see for yourself where it came from. So what's new for Milton Keynes? Well, one thing that has not changed is that Milton Keynes remains one of the strongest and fastest growing local economies in the nation. We've built a reputation that is recognized and celebrated by our nation's political and business leaders. Milton Keynes is a rising star, and it's generating a great deal of wealth and prosperity for a large number of people. Our first set of stats shows that we see significantly more new business creation in Milton Keynes, and those that do set up here are more likely to succeed than in other parts of the country. Our enterprise score measures this characteristic and shows that we're 22% more enterprising excuse me, than the average local economy in Great Britain. This leads to job creation at a faster rate, 51% faster than the national average. And when you look at the value of goods and services produced in Milton Keynes, you see that we outstrip nearby success stories like Oxford and Southampton by quite a wide margin. We have grown into a thriving city that enjoys low rates of unemployment, fast growth, and high productivity. It's no wonder that so many businesses have chosen to locate here, with more coming every year. We're thought of as an affluent city that offers the right conditions needed for businesses to succeed. The explosion of house prices in Milton Keynes over the last 10 years offers further evidence that there is a great deal of wealth and prosperity here. But that's not the whole story. At the Community Foundation, we talk to local groups and charities every day that are struggling to cope with large numbers of panicked families who are in desperate need of help. We have large emerging migrant communities in our city, many of whom struggle with language and cultural barriers, which in turn make it more difficult for them to find work that pays a living wage. We have large numbers of working families who have found their stagnant wages failing to keep up with the cost of living, driving them into desperation and mounting personal debt as they find they can no longer make ends meet from month to month. I've taken calls at my desk from single parents who've suffered benefit cuts that leave them utterly unable to provide for their children, and yet they cannot afford the child care that they require to enable them to work. These people called me because they believed they had exhausted every possible source of help. They're calling us because they don't know who else they can turn to. And the only help I can offer is to refer them to charities and voluntary sector services that have had their own funding cut and who I know are already stretched far beyond their capacity. People are losing their homes and ending up living on our city streets in unprecedented numbers that we have never before seen in our community. From just a handful 10 years ago, the numbers of homeless have ballooned, increasing 350% in the last year alone to 1,250 people. Child poverty sits stubbornly at just under 20%, or 1 out of every 5 children in Milton Keynes living below the poverty line. And as I always point out, the poverty line is set very low. That definition. There are many families in terrible financial hardship that don't fall below that line, which suggests that that statistic may only touch the surface of the reality of poverty in our city. Despite our affluent image, 13% of families in Milton Keynes are living in communities that rank amongst the most deprived in the nation. And looking to the future, more than 1 in 5 of our young people of working age are unemployed. And this is a far higher rate of unemployment than in nearby cities like Bedford and Northampton. Here's a mystery. Milton Keynes enjoys low rates of unemployment, yet over the past 10 years, the employment rate has fallen by nearly 8%. Our population is rapidly growing, and these people clearly aren't being counted as unemployed. So how do we account for this? The employment rate is based solely on people of working age, so an aging population isn't the answer. Have they all been classed as economically inactive, keeping them out of the unemployment figures? This is a trend that has not been reflected in our neighboring cities in the region. So what is the explanation for this? Perhaps there is a clue on this slide. Milton Keynes was deliberately located equidistant from London, Oxford, and Cambridge. That puts us in relatively easy commuting distance of all three. And many people in Milton Keynes have taken advantage of that and work outside the city. Similarly, businesses located in Milton Keynes have access to labor from these cities. Major cities, all boasting a whole range of prestigious institutions of higher learning. But do they need to? It's generally accepted that Milton Keynes boasts a highly educated workforce. But do we? Looking specifically at the qualifications held by local people, Milton Keynes actually falls slightly behind the national average, and significantly behind Oxford, for example. Our People's Poll indicated that about half of respondents believe that local people often lack the skills needed by local employers. Anecdotally, we've also heard this from friends in the business realm of Milton Keynes who are employers themselves. This raises the question, what proportion of high-skilled jobs in Milton Keynes are filled by non-residents? Are local people able to compete effectively for these jobs? And is our local educational system able to address this potential skills gap? Unfortunately, the latest round of exam results have been disappointing for many. After finally catching up to the national average in GCSE scores in 2013, last year saw a relatively steep drop for local students, taking us back slightly behind the national average. A-level results also took a tumble, and this is reflected in the broad range of results, including the top slice. The proportion of A-level students who achieved A star to A or better in at least 3 subjects was 12% nationwide, but in Milton Keynes was only 6%. And sadly, our most vulnerable students have shown the most dramatic downward trends, with students from poor backgrounds and the disabled losing the most ground compared to the results in previous years. The GCSE statistic from the last slide is repeated here. 61% of our local students achieved 5 or more A star through C grades on their GCSEs. But if you look specifically just at the students who qualify for free school meals, that result drops to 25%. There's also cause for concern for younger children. Less than half of children under 5 and under, who qualify for free school meals are showing good levels of early development in communication, language, and social skills, all of which are critical to their continued development and success in life. So it's of great concern that so many young children from disadvantaged backgrounds are falling so far behind. How about some good news? In a range of indicators related to health and well-being, Milton Keynes is way ahead of the national average. According to the national average, a city of our size, you would expect to have seen about 1,400 new diagnoses of sexually transmitted infections in the last year, but instead we only had just over 1,000. We have a third fewer people abusing crack and opiates than the national average. And with regard to teen pregnancies, not only are we below the national average, but the numbers are continuing to decline. Another thing that Milton Keynes has received national attention for is our weight problem. While last year's stats on obesity in Milton Keynes haven't got worse, they haven't got better either. Here's that ratio again. 1 in 5 children, this time ages 10 to 11, are clinically obese. Sadly, that is in line with the national average. And worryingly, many overweight and obese young people don't recognize that they have a weight problem. A national study published just this year reported that nearly 40% of 13 to 15-year-olds who are overweight identify themselves as being the right weight or even too light. And I'm afraid we adults aren't setting a very good example for them. Nearly 1 out of every 4 adults in Milton Keynes is clinically obese, and 73% are either overweight or obese. This is stripping years off our lives and creating increased risks of many other related illnesses and diseases. Simon Stevens, the chief executive of NHS England, calls obesity the new smoking. He said it represents a slow-motion car crash in terms of avoidable illnesses. Here's a few final red flags that warrant our attention. Between 2012 and 2014, the number of hip fractures seen in our older residents increased by 8%. That's a substantial jump. Why has it happened? Hospital stays for self-harm have jumped 77% in the last year. This raises the question of what's going on with our mental health during this stressful time for many families. We've also seen increases in the incidence of some kinds of cancer and the rates of mortality associated with cancer. This is in line with national trends. The top chart on the right shows early deaths due to cancer, raising the question of whether the effectiveness of our treatments for cancer is worsening or whether this is simply attributable to increasing numbers of people getting cancer, which we can see illustrated in the chart on the lower right. This shows the local jump in the number of people diagnosed with malignant melanoma, which is the 5th most common form of cancer. Milton Keynes is a complicated city, offers so much that's cause for pride and so much that's cause for concern. Vital Signs is intended to highlight both. And there will be more opportunities to shine a spotlight on our strengths in next year's full report. For this year, the updated stats do raise some troubling developments that we all need to be aware of. If Vital Signs succeeds, it does so by raising awareness of these important issues and inspiring conversation and debate about how best to address them. Vital Signs was never intended as a solution. Instead, it aspires to be a catalyst for discussion and change. We ask that you help us to give it a chance to do that. Share the news and help us to get this report in front of people. The more people know, the more informed our public discourse will be, and the better equipped we will all be to effect positive change in this city, our home. Now, the Community Foundation lacks the resources to solve these problems in our city, but we hope to contribute to addressing the impact of some of these problems on people's lives. And we do that in part by funding projects that give people opportunities for development and activities, confidence building, things that will help give them a better shot in life. We have a very short film we're just going to show you now that highlights one of the projects that we funded recently, just to give you an example of this work.
The support I've had from the MK Community Foundation has been absolutely amazing. First of all, it was completely unexpected. They gave me a bursary, which was some money to help fund me so I could concentrate on training, so I could just play my best and give everything for the nation. I now play for Team GB and England, and I did compete at London 2012. And if one or two things that I can say or do can really help a young child and youngster fulfill their potential, then I'm all for it. I'll keep doing it as much as I can.
We tried to get all the people in Fisher Mead, the kids, to come together, doesn't matter which background they're from, and try to get together and form a football club. One of the key problems in the area was there's a lot of crime, a lot of issues around the area. We teach our kids good morals and ethics, and that's where, from this good morals and ethics, is where we make friends wherever we go, and that's where the Friendship in Football campaign comes from. We've had unbelievable support from the MK Community Foundation. This has been the youth project that started last year. Prior to that, we've had 5 or 6 massive projects that we've delivered. As you can see, our facility here with the goalposts and things like that, All of this has come from the Community Foundation support. Without their support, I don't think half of these things would be possible.
Every time I go out in Milton Keynes and I walk past someone, I almost see them as someone that has directly helped me, because I always see like I've got the whole of MK behind me, and having it branded as the MK Community Foundation, it's just like one big team, and I'm just so happy to be part of it, you know?
Please support MK Community Foundation so they can support a group like ours. Thank you.
I hope you love everything the MK Community Foundation stands for and all the people they support. Please can you do your best and support them so they can help athletes like me. Thanks.
That is the MK Galacticos Football Club on Fishermead Estate, and the young man who is sort of central in that film is Alistair Heselton, who's winner of our sports bursary last year, a truly gifted, inspirational young guy who's making a real difference in the lives of young people in our city. So that's the end of the presentation for today. We do have copies of the report to provide for you. If you come from an organization or a network of people that you feel you'd like a supply of these reports to distribute, please let us know. We'll be happy to get some for you. Thank you very much for coming this morning, and we hope you'll stay and enjoy more refreshments.